we can all agree that you can do endless affirmations, look good, achieve the impossible, speak well, be envied by many, yet still find yourself wrestling with low self-esteem. You're ticking off all the right boxes, but you can't shake the feeling of emptiness. That's because the most important things are missing from our conversations about self-esteem, which is that it's an uphill battle. A very, very difficult battle to build self-esteem without integrity, self-respect, responsibility, and awareness. Your self-esteem is hinged on your interactions with these elements. That's why a person can seem highly confident and still have a low sense of worth. Self-confidence is about your abilities, your skills, and the capabilities to stay rooted and figure things out no matter what is happening in life. Self-esteem is about how you value yourself, period. How you interpret your worth. I believe everyone on earth is born worthy. We have intrinsic value. But the price of existing as humans is that experiences, doubts, fear, and uncertainty can begin to erode our sense of that value. We lose the internal stability that was freely given, but thankfully we can recover and rebuild it. So how do you build an unshakable? How do you build a solid self-esteem? 1. You cannot live on autopilot. You cannot build a healthy sense of self-worth when you are disconnected from your core, when you just go wherever the wind blows with whomever. This is where awareness and integrity come in. You have to be willing to examine yourself completely, and this is a very difficult and painful process because you cannot lie about what you see. You cannot sugarcoat the conclusions you draw about who you are. What you value, where you go, what you do when no one is watching, what you say, what you believe, and why you believe it all matter. Your goals, your internal monologue, and how you interact with the world matter too. In your self-examination, you might find that while you are a charming person, while you are nice and lovely, you're also flaky, inconsistent, not accountable. You might exaggerate, ignore problems, numb yourself with vices, not actively participate in your own life. You lie and have never kept a single promise you made to yourself, let alone to others. These are cracks in your foundation. If you met somebody with all these traits, would you trust them with your life? Probably not. So it's not surprising that you don't trust yourself or see your value. Remember, you're a person too. The deep admiration or respect you have for a person is tied to certain qualities about them. Deep down, you have internal checks for when you do things that go against your being. You know who and what cannot be trusted. But when you're unconsciously zipping through life, you don't realize that you might just fit that profile. So if you want to build self-respect, which is necessary for self-esteem, you cannot keep living against your consciousness. Wake up and dare to tell the truth about who you are, who you've been. You might not like what you see, and that's okay, that's human. But it will open up possibilities for change. Your awareness of self often calls you to accountability, and that's why we avoid it. You can always tell when you meet somebody who lives consciously, because they seem a little burdened. They always seem a bit burdened, but that's because it's so hard to move through the world the same way. You see so much more than many people do. There's no going back. You become someone who calls yourself out. At the same time, you become someone who realizes that there are parts of you that you just have to accept. They might be inconvenient sometimes, but they are just your natural rhythm, not good or bad, just there. Only when you face who you are truly can you begin to take full responsibility for your actions. And that responsibility is the key to breaking the cycle. Your self-esteem needs this to grow. Now that you've examined yourself, the second step is to take stock of what happened in your younger years and determine how those experiences show up in your life today. This is why the first step is so important. When you learn all the good, the bad, the ugly, and the unspeakable about yourself, you can then find out why things are the way they are. Children aren't born with low self-esteem. You developed it through experiences, through your interactions with the world around you. Who you are right now is either a combination of your child, teenage, and victimized self, or a reaction to those selves. A lot of us are too afraid, too angry, or even too ashamed of what has happened to us to really examine and observe it. So we lock it away. We numb the pain, we deny it ever happened. Yet you wonder why, no matter what you do, you feel broken. No matter who says they love you, you feel unlovable. You wonder why you keep searching for solace in beds and bodies that don't care if you live or die. Why your happiness lives at the bottom of a bottle or trapped in a can of pills. Why you can't seem to deal with certain situations in a mature adult way. That's because your actions are filtered through the wounds and experiences of the selves you won't acknowledge. You are at war with yourself, and that's a war no one has ever won. I've never seen anyone that won it. To heal your self-esteem, align all versions of yourself. Make sure you're playing for the same team, all of you, working together for your good. You cannot do that without letting them into the light. Listen, there are areas of my life where I know for a fact that I react as a 7-year-old. As my 7-year-old self, those parts of me are still raw and bleeding. My awareness means that I treat that part of me really tenderly, but I cannot let a 7-year-old make certain life decisions. So when that part of me is poked, yes, I act like a child or I react like a child, but I also act as a parent. I allow myself to be that child in an environment that I, Pearl, in the now, have curated. And I take the reins. For example, if you are someone who was abandoned as a child or teenager in any way, you will continue to act solely from your wounding unless you actively recognize where you are stuck and how that shows up today. Once you do, your actions will be conscious enough to prevent you from making life decisions that reinforce your lack of self-respect. And sometimes it's not even about what was done to you. You might have been the bad thing that happened to others. Were you a bully? Because I always hear people talk about being bullied, but where are the bullies? Did you ever do despicable things to other people and now live in disavowalment of who you used to be? Do you have deep shame and would rather pretend it didn't happen? You can't do that. You can't do that and expect to have a healthy perception of your value. If you don't face the truths of your actions, the consequences of your subconscious self-damnation will never leave you. Do not underestimate the power of your abandoned younger self to wreak complete havoc in your life today. They are that powerful. After you've become acquainted with all the versions of you, it's time to quit victimhood and pick up self-responsibility. A lot of us are addicted to pain. And I speak from experience, by the way, just so we're clear. As simple as it sounds, you have to be willing to lose the comfort of being unaware and down in the dumps for the pain, the uncertainty, the accountability that building your self-esteem requires. If you want to commit to this journey, everything in your life can no longer be your parents, your caregivers, or your bully's fault. Everything can no longer be about that thing that happened to you in the past. Yes, you are aware of the pain points of your younger self or your victimized self. And in the same breath, you have to accept that whether you like it or not, you are now in charge of your life and no one but you can save you. And it sucks. Oof. It really, really sucks. Because while other people are out there living their best lives, you spend so much of your time and energy trying to rectify what you didn't dismantle. But you have to ask yourself, what would happen if I took control of my life? What if I stopped letting people who have probably moved on, forgotten, or even refused to acknowledge what they did to me control the direction of my life? What if I pursued peace? What about joy? This kind of thinking and action taking requires everything from you, every single thing from you, especially if you've been traumatized over and over again for an extended period of time. It might feel like you're denying your reality, but that's the price you pay for health. That's the price you pay for growth. If you fancy a kick in the butt about this, I've made a video about it here. And the final point is to live authentically. That is the basis of most of the things that I say anyway. But now that you know all these things about yourself, you have to dare to live in conformity with your internal truths and values. How do you find out your truths and your values? You will discover them when you stop being on autopilot. So the way you find out what you like to eat by eating it and going, okay, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. You will discover them when you are conscious and aware. We all have different ideas of what living authentically means, but it boils down to closing the gap between your personal values and what you purport to the world to be your values. So basically, let who you want to be or who you are privately match who you are publicly. And I know this can be nuanced, I know. But all you have to do is, to the best of your ability, close the distance as much as you can. You know those people who everyone thinks they are great, but when you hear from people who actually know them, it's a different story. That's who you don't want to be. So if you want peace, if you want growth and internal stability, you have to stop hiding. No one can weaponize what you know and accept about yourself against you. No one. Embrace what matters to you. What would you like to give up? Where do you want to be? Embrace your feelings, your fears, your embarrassment, and the possibility of conflict. Show up and dare to be seen. Do this for a while, and you'll find yourself feeling more rooted. You'll begin to value yourself more and more. And of course, do the things, all the things like practicing self-compassion, treating yourself with grace when you make mistakes, especially when you make mistakes, building your confidence through actions. I have a video on that. Do all those things. Remember, you are human, so you have your moments. Your self-esteem wasn't fractured in a single blow, so of course it's going to take time to build up. Keep showing up for yourself. Stay awake even when it hurts. Tell the truth, and the fruits of your labor will become evident soon enough. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. My name is Pearl Girl, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.